Parents' death was not your fault.
My parents deserve justice.
I cannot let that pass.
If you make yourself more than just a man, then you become something else entirely.
Which is?
A legend, Mr. Wayne.
Master Wayne, are you coming back for long, sir?
As long as it takes to show the people of Gotham their city doesn't belong to the criminals and the corrupt.
Bruce?
Rachel?
You were gone a long time.
I know.
Things are worse than ever down here. What chance does Gotham have when the good people do nothing?
Nomex survival suit for advanced infantry. Kevlar utility harness, gas-powered magnetic grapple gun.
What's that?
On the tumbler? Or you wouldn't be interested in that.
I spent a lot of time being scared for you. I heard you were back. But the man I loved, the man who vanished, never came back.
He's here.
Who?
The Batman.
God, that must be destroyed.
Gotham isn't beyond saving.
Just hold on.
Guy dresses up like a bat clearly has issues.
I want a car. Chicks dig the car.
This is why Superman works alone.
Good to see you all among the living. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Talon Mix. It is normally a Smallville recap podcast, but it's not right now. It's a Batman podcast. Zach, sing the song.
No, not Smallville.
It's good every time. It's good every time, and it gets better every time. Hi, everybody. I'm Brian. Zach's here, and look who else is also here. I'm nailing this intro. I'm feeling good.
You're doing great. You're doing great.
I'm doing great. From Crack's Cannonball, Jesse's here.
Wow,
More
hey
importantly,
guys.
Was that not a great intro? Was that
from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles episode of our Smallville recap podcast?
Most famously, of course.
Primarily,
Yes.
That's the
Yeah.
top line on my resume. It's going to be the
Yeah.
top line on my gravestone.
Jesse, thank you so much for coming back.
Of course.
So you have a show on Cracked called Cannonball. It's one of the best, dealing with the strange avenues of canon that people may not know about. I was curious, do you have any a strange Batman comics or animes or things somebody might not be aware of that they should maybe check out or not?
You know, I do. So we made a Batman episode like 2 or more years ago. So I forget all of the details, but I'm looking it up real quick on YouTube. I'm looking at the chapters of the video. I'm seeing Batman has bladder spasms.
Okay.
Batman gets off while criminals burn alive. Oh, I do remember that one. Do we curse? Can we curse on this podcast?
Yeah. Yeah. No one.
Batman.
You can curse in the woods too. No one's listening.
A lot of trees falling here. Batman fucks either Poison Ivy or Catwoman while after like setting like a warehouse full of criminals on fire.
All right. That sounds
and then
right.
The number one entry was Batman's exposed Batarang, which I'm guessing was genital in nature.
Probably his penis.
Or he might have had flat, crooked balls. Yeah, unfortunately, I can't remember any of the details, but know that there's a lot out there for.
Well, they can go to. They can watch a 2.5-year-old episode of Cannonball and get all the details on Batman's Batarang dick.
Mm-hmm. It always comes back around.
Do you know what Christopher Nolan really missed in his Dark Knight trilogy? Was explaining away Bruce Wayne's Batarang dick.
Or sexuality of any kind.
Or any kind.
God, I miss those hard plastic nipples.
It really did. It's come up a couple of times how every Batman movie is an overreaction to the last Batman movie. And
wow, yeah.
This is like a Jedi, like, no one has sex here.
Right.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a romantic lead, but they're not gonna have any chemistry whatsoever.
Yeah, and the fact that they harp so much on how they were like childhood buddies, and they did have sort of the like will they won't they kind of thing going on, but it was really like a lot of their interactions were as children, completely devoid of any sexual energy. Thank God.
Thank God.
When they were adults, their interactions were conversations about justice.
Oh my God, you're right.
Personally gets me pretty hot, but I guess I'm just more like Batman than you guys. So I don't know if I mentioned it already. We watched Batman Begins, which is from 2005. So we are not quite 10 years removed from the critical and commercial failure of Batman and Robin. It's, you could say, the Batman franchise for Warner Brothers was put on the cooler. Did you like that?
You could say that, but God willing, you never will. Now, I gotta say, I loved all of those movies as a kid, and I didn't realize that they were universally hated for quite some time. They were just so much fun to watch.
It's I also remember, when I was a kid, it was like, yeah, that was in fact directed exactly towards my eyeballs. Batman and Robin specifically. Zach, you specifically remember that being your like,
Well, I might be a couple years older than you guys, and that's like the perfect cutoff for that movie. Because the first three, I was on board. They were generally well received by the public. They made a lot of money. The fourth one, Batman and Robin, that's when I was like 11, and I was like, I'm out. I'm out. That's it. No, that's it. And I loved Batman. I fucking loved Batman.
Well, yeah, what a betrayal that must be as a child, knowing only like your favorite franchise getting better and better and better, and then seeing like, wait a minute, they can make this bad for money.
A mutual friend, Jake Young, I remember, it's a feeling I'm trying to now figure out for myself. When was the first time? He's credited to Attack of the Clones, of the first time he's sitting in a movie theater. He's got his popcorn, he's got his soda, and this is bad. This movie's, I'm not enjoying this. And the kind of the first time realizing that was possible. I'm not sure quite when that was for me, but I'd love to discover it because it wasn't Batman and Robin.
See, when Attack of the Clones came out, I was a sophomore. Oh no, I was a sophomore in high school. So I was old enough to, even though I knew it was bad, still appreciate
right.
I still enjoy the fuck out of it, even though it's like, this is so bad. I love it.
So this is a fun stretch of time here of we've now jumped from very much kid watching to the years have gone by. Personally, for me, I'm in high school when Batman Begins comes out, and my interests are movies, Batman, girls, in that order. So,
football.
No.
Was this your or was middle school your glory days of football?
It's okay. Middle school into high school. I was never that into it, but I did play, and then I did play in high school. But not for high school, not for my high school team, real fast. Not for my high school team. My brother was very, very passionate about football. It was this whole thing. His Pop Warner team didn't have enough players. He wasn't going to get to play his final year in Pop Warner. So I'm like, hey, can I go to the games, stand there in pads, and then like they'll have enough kids and my brother can play his last year of football.
Man.
And they
Good
were
brother.
like, yeah, that'd be great. And then it turned out I'm a high schooler against a bunch of 7th graders.
Yeah, wait, you were playing?
Yeah. They had a thing called older lighter, which was I forget the weight requirement. But the one it had turned to like because like I had initially just offered like I'll go to the games and stand in pads. And then like you got enough kids, but Pop Warner requires you to play a mandatory 8 plays because your parents paid a couple $100 for you to play. So you have to get into the game at least 8 plays. And so I'm like, okay, I can go to that. Well, we don't want you to fuck up those 8 plays. So you got to go to one practice a week, which then just devolved into, okay, you don't have to run laps. Because I was like, I'm not doing it. I was way more interested in Batman.
Yeah. Teaching these 7th graders Batman lore.
It's not huddles. Like that. It's not we're supposed to be nipples.
You don't understand. He's a detective first.
So, Batman and Robin does not do well. Nobody likes it, aside from the 9-year-olds that I was.
I would just amend that and say I think it actually made a profit. I think it made money.
I think it ultimately did do
just
fine.
Not compared to the last one before it, and also everyone hated it. So yeah,
right. Like, it was no one during the production of Batman and Robin. Everyone was kind of raring to go on 5 immediately after. It was like forever straight into Batman and Robin. Let's do 5. I had mistakenly.
What was it called? I feel like I just read about this. It was like, wasn't it called Batman Unchained?
It was called. I had mistakenly referred to it as Batman Triumphant, which is what I had remembered hearing it as. It turns out was just a made-up internet name. That was never in consideration, from what I've read. But yes, it was called Batman Unchained. It was to be directed by Joel Schumacher. And so what was funny was I remember kids in the lunchroom talking about how the Scarecrow was going to be the next villain. And that was the plan. Scarecrow would have been the villain of Batman Unchained, and the whole idea was he would use the fear toxin, and Batman would be put on trial by all the former villains.
That is kind of cool.
Danny DeVito was supposed to show up, Michelle Pfeiffer, and then Jack Nicholson was the crown jewel. He had even teased that maybe he was going to come back for what that was.
Wow.
And then the only problem was they put Batman and Robin out.
I think it actually was the intention to still do the movie a short time after Batman and Robin, but I think the sentiment only grew more vicious as time went on. And they were also probably then we start getting into more successful superhero, like X-Men comes out, that kind of thing.
That's a great point.
We're like, oh, you know what? We can do a totally different thing with this.
Right.
It doesn't have to be this. Okay, yeah.
So a couple of other things hit the table as far as maybe where they want to go with it. There was always talk of like maybe some sort of Batman Beyond movie based on the animated series. I had always read that at least maybe a script was commissioned. I don't know if it got totally that far. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think Darren Aronofsky had maybe pitched something.
He and Frank Miller wrote a screenplay of Batman Year One, except for it was completely different than Batman Year One. It was called Batman Year One.
I remember that script. I don't know if that really was it or if that was a fan. Somebody basically passing it off as.
I mean, it's so wildly different.
So it's not Batman Year One at all.
It's not Batman. It was, really.
I remember it being kind of cool because I was at the time just absorbing anything I could Batman. So of course I was digging those scripts up. it was also the magic of the internet. Like scripts they just put them on the internet.
Yeah.
The idea there was Batman or Bruce Wayne was not rich. Alfred owned like a junkyard. And he kind of discovered that he was actually the heir of the Wayne fortune. And it was like him in hockey pads and
cool.
very put together stuff. And I believe I remember specifically in that script, he had a Thomas Wayne emblem ring. And that when he punched a guy left a mark. And the TW sort of looking like a bat.
I'm into it.
It was, I remember it being kind of cool, but also I was 15 and an idiot.
Here's a question. Now, like what they're doing, exploring, I don't know. Have we ever gotten anything resembling that type of Batman? Or do you think we ever will? They seem to be interested in like delving more into the Joker every 5 to 10 years than like telling these alternate Batman origin stories.
You know, it's I don't know if we ever will. I don't know if we ever I don't know if we'll ever stray too far from the mainstream understanding of Batman.
True.
That said, I don't know if you saw the most recent like the Batman, the Matt Reeves one.
I think I did.
There's elements of that in there, I feel like. Zach, I don't know if you agree. The suit feels a lot more cobbled together. The car feels more like a modded car.
Yeah.
That suit, that actually is a really good point. That does sound, as I'm picturing you describing him with like hockey pads and stuff. Yeah, that is the most recent Batman.
And then bare minimum is exploring Bruce Wayne as not a cool, suave, debonair dude, just like a nasty, weird little fucking freak. I'm excited to get into that one. I enjoy that movie a lot.
I mean, that's what's so fun about this series is everyone's Bruce Wayne and everyone's Batman is actually quite different, especially Bruce Wayne's. They're actually all doing something different from each other. So that's
if we're not exploring what makes him tick and doing different iterations of that, what's the point? Right. I don't think this the character has the same longevity unless there's a lot of people going like, well, no, this is how I think it kind of works.
And Bale's got a fun one. Bale's got a fun take, which we'll get into. But
absolutely. So it's funny to me that Batman Begins, as it becomes released, as it happens, is probably one of the most important cornerstones of superhero movies as we know them right now. Like a lot of bad habits come from this movie. There's a turning point here in how we view superheroes for the next like 10 years because of this movie.
Not even just superheroes. I mean, movies
James
in
Bond,
general.
Movies. Yeah. The summer blockbuster changes because of Batman Begins. Equally The Dark Knight, but like it starts here. Mm-hmm. And the making of it isn't that interesting. I don't think. You know, you get a good director cheap, right? It's Christopher Nolan is a British director who he was notable for Memento, which was a very good movie. Small budget. And then he moved on to Insomnia, which kind of proved he could work with a budget and work
with someone else's script as a studio movie.
Yes, he could do a big studio movie, deliver it on time, on budget. Yeah. Al Pacino and Robin Williams seemed perfectly happy with it. And so then they were able to get a good director, probably cheap, comparatively, for a big property. And so someone they could kind of direct of like, please deliver the product, but also was able to bring something to it. And they made a movie. That's about it. That's kind of all I can find about it.
I remember I was a high school geek too, so of course I followed movie news, especially Batman. And this was one where, when you're really excited about a movie and you hear something, and it's like maybe it's a good thing, and then you hear another thing, and you're like waiting for them to make the wrong decision.
Right.
You're like, when is they're gonna fuck this up? But like every piece you heard about Batman Begins was like, oh fuck yeah. Like Nolan, great choice. Christian Bale, oh my gosh. And then they start releasing pictures of it, and it like looks like Batman Year One, and and it all Perfect. Yes.
And the other, we were talking about scripts being on the internet. I think this is one of the very notable internet age script leaks.
Wow.
Of the script. The screenplay leaked, and 15-year-old Brian excitedly gobbled it up, which it had turned out eventually it had purposely leaked from the studio or someone within the studio, and it had the exact. Thinking about it kind of makes sense to me in that I think it's a pretty low risk getting it out there. Of most people, most ticket buyers don't want to read a screenplay, right? It's kind of a dry, boring blueprint. So it's not like you're ruining the movie for most people. And you get ardent fucking 15 to 25-year-olds who are just going to seek up anything going like, guys, this is pretty good.
Also, I would say, and this is as I remember it, aside from people like you and me, like in the kind of nerdy film nerd community, no one was stoked about a new Batman movie.
Nope. Warner Brothers was hedging their bets on it.
Expectations
were not that high.
Batman had, after Batman and Robin, been put in the penalty box, and then you got X-Men and Spider-Man, and people are way more excited about these comic. And then it's like, does anyone going to care about Batman again?
Wow.
Let's see. So they can release that screenplay, and then no one's going to give a fuck because no one really cares about a new Batman movie, except for the people that they want to impress.
Right. And then so I think it's a kind of intended effect of I'm at my high school with my small amount of influence, none.
Just all the seventh graders huddled around you.
Just the Pee-wee football games.
Just really making sure no girls want to come anywhere near me as I'm like, the new Batman movies come here. Ra's al Ghul is in it. Christian Bale is cast as Batman. The story he tells is that he had just done The Machinist, which if you haven't seen it, he gets scary thin in that one for real. And his agent is like, "Hey, Batman's casting. I think you'd be good for it." So he emergency tries to pack some weight back on, so he just doesn't come in like, "Hey, I'd like to be Batman," or look like a sick junkie who wants to be Batman. He packs the weight back on. Apparently, goes too far into not looking like Batman. But
the version I've heard is that he got the job, but then no one was like, "You need to put on weight fast. You need to be a beast." And then he went too far, and then no one's like, "Okay, you need to trim. Like, you can't like just be like."
It's crazy that like, so for a decade or so, and even to an extent to this day, it's like the story is that, you know, he kind of holds the mantle for like insane weight fluctuation of a Hollywood actor, but then also in the last 10 years or so, he's like not the biggest, most jacked superhero. Like every superhero has to be like Arnold Schwarzenegger shaped. And so him as Batman, like, doesn't even look super impressive. Like, yeah, he's cut up and all, but like, he doesn't look like a freak like every superhero does today.
This one he's the biggest in this one as far as muscle. He gets a lot more trim for the sequels from what I remember.
Ooh,
but
okay.
He's pretty beefy in this one.
Right. Sure. Yeah, he's definitely
he's notable because he did Machinist where he was real thin, then he did Batman Begins, then he did Rescue Dawn where he again got real thin.
He's a Vietnam prisoner of war and gets scary thin again.
Then he did The Dark Knight. Then he did The fucking Fighter where he plays the drug addict. And he had to get real thin again. So he has a problem.
Long. I don't think you can do that to your body and live like super extended.
I forgot about all the subsequent fluctuations. In my head, it was just like, and then he was Batman for the next 7 years. I forgot that there's other movies that he did.
Well, he just in between. It wasn't like you could just knock out all those thin movies at the same time. It's just like go back and forth.
Oh man.
Just done with the machinist. Werner, what's up? Let's go to the jungle. Little Dieter needs to fly.
We gotta hurry. My doctor says I only have 3 weeks to live. So
there's
I do want to say with the casting of Bale, that was one of the biggest for me and my friends at the time, because we had just all seen American Psycho and we're like,
sure, yep.
Perfect casting for Batman. He just looks like Batman.
Because also, like, the last, maybe I'm getting this wrong. Maybe it's just the previous Batman, but wasn't there like 2 or 3 Batmen that were straight up comedians that got then cast to be Batman, and everyone was like, "How the fuck is this guy gonna be serious?"
It was largely Michael Keaton.
So it's just Michael Keaton then.
Yeah, people were pissed when Michael Keaton was cast.
Sure.
But then in that vein, George Clooney's not exactly Michael Phelps. You know, he's not like...
He's a tiny little man.
Yeah.
Tiny little emergency room man. I just started watching ER. I've never seen it before outside of like my mom having it on. So it was always on, but I've never watched it. It's really good. It's a really good television show. It's pretty great. 15 seasons. I don't know.
There's like
you're around on Hulu.
5 good seasons, probably.
Yeah, right.
Something like that, yeah.
Anyway, pilot's really fucking great. This cast is pretty stacked. Liam Neeson, Morgan Freeman, Katie Holmes, huh?
It is funny.
She
you have
sticks around for a while.
Yeah, you have all these Oscar winners, Oscar nominees, and then it's like the one where clearly the WB was like, okay, come on, you got to get some hot teenager in here.
We got to set this to fucking Nickel. We got to get some footage we can set to Nickelback on the WB. We'll talk about this someday.
Okay, just wanted to float this because I told my boss I would. Can we get the WB Frog into your movie? Is there room for what's like Howard J. Frog or whatever?
Come on, no, all right,
no bad ideas. No bad ideas.
You know, Katie Holmes probably came from a list with like Jessica Simpson on it, and
put somebody hot in this movie, please, please.
What's Amanda Bynes doing?
Katie Holmes gets a lot of flack for this movie, and Zach, you and I were. I don't know if that's fair. I don't think she did.
No.
Basically, what she has to work with here is screenplay, just like, and there's a girl.
Right. No, it's
and
absolutely. Yeah, let's clarify. Not Katie Holmes' fault at all. She's fine. It's just clearly a character that they didn't want and were forced to put in. Like, it seems so clearly like, okay, and here's the girl character.
Which, it's funny, I was, Spider-Man had been very successful, and Spider-Man Kirsten Dunst's Mary Jane, that had that element of romance that was in I don't mind in my summer blockbuster adventure movie. Sue me. So of course Warner Brothers wanted to be like, that's here too. It's not. It's really not.
No, and yeah, again, I would love a strong female character. I mean, Catwoman in Batman Returns is one of my favorite of any movie ever, but it's like Nolan has no interest in it whatsoever, at least in this movie.
No,
and that
Nolan
comes across.
Is singularly focused on obsessed men, so much so that he doesn't know that women exist.
Well, he knows they exist and that they're dead and need like revenge or something, right?
I'm just going to throw it out there. Martha Wayne is not mentioned at all. We watched her die, and it doesn't come up again ever.
A lot of talk about his dad. Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh my god. Yeah, like her, like the pearls bouncing in the street are like have lasted more in my brain than any image of Martha herself.
Also,
and it's those pearls have an element of like, oh, Thomas bought her those pearls.
What? Yeah. Oh man.
Well, and you and I kind of were. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, just like, oh, he was such a good husband. That's why I'm crying. The world lost a good husband that day.
They really do butter it up like, oh yeah, and his great grandfather used to Underground Railroad.
Dude, absolutely, you're right, dude. They're like
so much like everyone here is good.
Yeah, all the men in this family solved the Depression, solved slavery.
Yeah,
and the women were there too.
Were they? Were they?
You and I were texting a little, Brian, about this. It's like, Christian Bale, great actor, one of my favorites. Has he have any sexual chemistry with anyone, really?
No, I've never seen it.
He's not. He's got a really good intensity for Batman,
right?
But there's no and Batman is generally, in my mind, not a very sexually interested Batman.
My favorite Batman is like sexless monk Batman.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
he only gets a boner. He has
no time for sex. He's too busy being angry about his parents.
Right, at 30-something years
yeah.
old. Christian Bale always charms me. We'll talk about it through the series here, but he has no interest in this nerd shit, right? Like I think he liked the job. I think he liked the role. I think he liked working with Nolan. He's been asked multiple times, like who's your favorite superhero? His response has been like, my daughter likes the Powerpuff Girls. And I respect that absolute, I don't give a shit about any of this shit. Which brings me to a thought I was having about when I was 15, the Liam Neeson's in this movie, Morgan Freeman's in this movie, and that for me was like, this is a real movie, Dad.
That was
totally.
Which was the intent. It didn't occur to me no, they paid those people a lot of money to give that impression that this is a good real movie, and not Arnold Schwarzenegger with an ice gun again. That's maybe before we get in the recap, that's one other thing I would like to mention is, so the intention here was to be more grounded and realistic in its portrayal of Batman, which I've seen people bristle up against, this movie's not realistic. It's not a realistic movie, guys. No, yeah, but we're talking Batman has ice skates in his boots in the last one. And they're in an observatory that's held up by a giant naked statue of a man. We're in a city that looks like Chicago. We explain away his suit as military prototypes.
Well, I do think it's interesting because that was what it was celebrated for, and The Dark Knight was celebrated for, was being more grounded and grim and realistic. But also that's what the backlash eventually was against, was realistic? What about all these plot holes? Blah, 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 blah.
Wow.
These movies were never fucking realistic.
No.
They had the aesthetics of realism.
Such a good way to put it.
But they never were attempting. These are... I think, and that's why I think
they're
they
no
work.
more realistic than any James Bond movie.
No, and
James
Nolan
Bond
knows
movies.
that. Nolan knows they're not actually realistic.
Right.
That's why they work.
Right. It's just they're supposed to take place on Earth, not in fantasy Gotham City where there's only Gotham City. There's nothing outside. It's in the Tim Burton movies and the Joel Schumacher movies. There's Gotham City, and once you get to the border, it's the movie screen. It's the fourth wall. Great. Let's get into the recap. 8-year-old Bruce Wayne is playing with his friend Rachel Dawes, daughter of the Wayne's housekeeper. I'm, of course, reading directly from this time I found the recap from the DCMovieUniverse.fandom.com wiki. This is the only recap I could find that had the plot of the movie in sequential order as seen in the movie. The other wikis we have used in the past take all the flashback stuff chronologically in the movie. This is the only one that has it. We like to go through the movie as if we were watching it together.
Tight.
So thank you for writing this wiki, DC movie universe.fandom.com. Sorry, we're going to make fun of it.
Why don't we? Yeah, let's just do a table read of the leaked script. That's the real experience.
My dream. Zach and I have talked about this. I would love to assemble everyone who's been on this podcast before and read through the Smallville pilot.
Dude, that's really fun. That would be very cool.
Very much want to do that. Okay, so 8-year-old Bruce Wayne is playing with his friend Rachel Dawes, daughter of the Wayne's housekeeper, when he falls into a well and encounters a group of bats, triggering a lasting fear of them. Zach, this is the first one. Absolutely no opening credits here. This is kind of a trend of the time. We're getting right into it.
Yes, except for we do get little opening visual moments in each of the Nolan movies. This one, it's the bats forming the bat symbol in the sky, and it's pretty cool.
It's cool, especially, and I think it kind of goes with the aesthetic here of being more quote-unquote realistic, quote-unquote, is they don't quite solidify into the bat logo, right? You can just see the bat logo suggested in the swarm of bats. It's kind of cool, and it actually sets up the expectation there.
This swarm of bats is giving bat vibes. I hadn't even noticed that they didn't have it, like, intro credits, and I was thinking, like, it felt like this intro is super long. Like, it felt like there's, for a longer period than a normal movie, it was like giving you backstory and giving you like vignettes and stuff like that. And I was trying to figure out what was going on, and I guess maybe just because I never got that, like, okay, the intro is over and here's the movie by a credit.
Sure.
So anyway, that's interesting. I hadn't caught that.
My cat is using her litter box right now, and I hope my mic's not picking it up, but it possibly is. Sorry, everybody.
It's not. Yeah. Yes. So, like, the first 30 minutes of this movie is like a previously on Batman's life.
Yes. That's a great way to put how it felt. Yeah.
I will say, though, Zach, I don't know how you felt, and Jesse, I don't know how you felt. Not having watched the 6 previous movies before this. I've watched this movie on my couch, just like watching the 3 Nolan movies before, and I haven't felt that warm to this one as I did when I was 15. I was almost a little disappointed revisiting. This time I'm like, man, this is a breath of fresh air after the Schumacher ones. Like, oh my God, we're like taking this kind of seriously. Oh, I'm in.
No, this is the least amount of notes I took for any of them because I was just watching the fucking movie. It was this is a good movie.
You had texted me like, man, this movie just smells like popcorn. And watching this movie takes me right back to that summer in the best possible way. I think it's a testament to the movie of my family was in Virginia visiting. It was my daughter's first birthday, and so they were at my house, and like I get up early with the baby, and so I'm like, I got a little time to myself. I'll now's probably a good time to watch Batman Begins. So I throw that on. I'm hanging out with the baby, and my parents are slowly waking up. My dad gets up first. And then my mom shortly after, and then shortly we're all just watching Batman Begins. That's kind of the cool power of this like summer adventure movie is that you can just come in halfway through and like, oh hell yeah, Batman's here. Yeah, I like it.
Oh man. Oh no, it's gonna be so awkward when my parents are here and they're having sex in this movie. Oh no. Oh, that's sultry eye contact when they realize when she figures out that he's Batman.
Yep.
Get me all flustered.
Too horny. So in the present day, an adult Bruce languishes in a Chinese prison until he is visited by a man called Henry Ducard, who offers that he undergo martial arts training with an elite vigilante group, the League of Shadows. So I love the scene here of, I think this is a cool... There's a lot of ways they could have done this, right? And I assume the script went through a lot of different ways to present the Bruce Wayne backstory. But we start with him in a prison in some... I don't think it's ever listed as China. I think it's just a foreign prison. But to kind of start there is enough of like, this is a Batman movie? I don't what's Batman doing here? No other Batman movie starts like this.
You see him in poverty immediately, which is kind of cool. I guess maybe that's what I was thinking of earlier is, are we ever going to see him looking like one of us? And yeah, to see him first as, a poor man in a prison is kind of jarring. Right.
And it's also really smart because it's obviously a framing device. Then someone gets to say, hey, what happened to you? And then you just get a flashback of something right in his life. So it's just really smart. I mean, we're basically doing Superman the movie here. Yes. Batman's never gotten that treatment before.
Batman's origin story has never been straightly told like this. It's not in the comics, not in... There's been no, like, I'm Bruce Wayne, and I'm going to be Batman, and I'm going to jump off a building. Shit, I should get a cape. Never told like that.
The most we've ever gotten in the movies is just a flashback to his parents getting killed, right?
Right.
Except for the animated, they do a little more there, but... so I think that was Nolan's intention, was like, let's tell it has almost the identical structure to Superman the movie, except for the first chunk, the first 40 minutes is told non-sequentially. That's the difference, right?
And the third act is much better than Superman the movie's third act, and it's still not a great third act. It's still not quite a banger.
You can tell this is Nolan before he has all the power. Yes. And he's like trying to do the superhero movie ending.
I've always been a little stuck on, was Liam Neeson just waiting in a cell hoping Bruce Wayne would end up in there at some point? Or...
What do you mean? He heard through the grapevine that Bruce Wayne was in prison, and then he was like, hey, let me in there. I'm powerful. And they're like, yeah, you're powerful. You can come in here.
Into specifically the solitary cell he was going to be in when he started a fight at breakfast?
I will wait here until he starts a fight.
Is he coming to this one? Oh, you got a couple open? All right, I'll just stay frosty. I'll stay frosty. So cutting back to his childhood, the young Bruce Wayne accompanies his parents to a production of The Ring Cycle. This is Bruce is now giving his, oh, man in my cell, here's my whole life story. Here's how I ended up to this point. His parent, young Bruce Wayne, at a production of The Ring Cycle, the bat creatures in the opera trigger Bruce's fear, and he begs them to leave, so his parents smuggle him out of the emergency exit. This is so traditionally in Batman comics, the origin story has been Batman and Bruce Wayne and his parents are coming out of a movie theater. They're seeing a Zorro. This always makes sense to me of like, do the opera, it's a high class rich people thing. That's movies are a common people's thing. You can also throw the bat motif in there. There's kind of the theme of like fear and like what Bruce is afraid of kind of plays into it. Nolan has also talked about, and I think it's interesting, he didn't want to do the Zorro thing because he didn't want Bruce Wayne to be getting the idea of Batman or a masked hero from somewhere else. He wants to be completely and wholly his idea, which I think is interesting and I think is effective.
Yes. And, cool. I don't think there have ever been superhero type characters in this world of Batman. I think this is a whole new idea that Bruce Wayne came up with.
Yeah, exactly. I'd like to spend 10 minutes in young Bruce Wayne's like bedroom and see what inspired him besides like one traumatic event. I think it's funny too that this this is another time that like Martha Wayne is just completely sidelined, where she's like, what's wrong? Why are we leaving the opera? And then like his dad is just like, I wanted to leave. Just get out of this. This is between me and the kid.
Or be like, you couldn't be like, hey, let's go wait out in the hall until the scary scene's done. We got to ruin the whole night at the opera for your mom.
You know how your mother gets.
Can we buck up and not just take the emergency exit into Crime Alley?
Yeah, I think it's scary in here.
Oh my god. Hey, look, parenting is hard, guys. These folks are first time parents, you know. They don't give you classes.
There's a little bit here though that going into the alleys, a little bit Bruce's fault. That is good. I don't think he ever plays with it that much. Maybe a little bit, but that's an interesting touch. I had another thought, and it can't be that important. We do, before we get to the opera proper, we do see the young Wayne family on the monorail system that the Waynes have built throughout the city, and I think this is interesting. For all the realism of this, it doesn't feel that this is much closer to fantasy Gotham than the rest of the series kind of get.
Yes,
of like there's still a monorail system, a strange monorail system that all leads to the big Wayne Tower. It feels more fantasy oriented than the other two movies will be.
Well, and we spend a lot of time in the Narrows, which is like really like looks like Blade Runner or some shit like that.
Yeah, just like it's a poverty island that I think there's one shot there that's definitely miniatures, and we've noticed appears in Smallville.
That's the shot that we will see 100 times in Smallville coming up.
Yep. Holy shit. That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah, they just
because
lifted
WB
it
owns
as an
it. Why not? Right?
Yeah.
Wow.
But notably, this more fantastical Gotham also is like the last time Nolan's using a bunch of CGI in his movies, like obvious CGI.
Yes.
I'm sure he saw it and was like, no, ew, gross, never again.
That said, man, yes, there's actually, this still was like pretty low on CGI compared to a lot of movies at the time. When you compared to like even a perfect movie, Spider-Man 2, which is the only way I refer to that movie. Perfect movie, Spider-Man 2. A lot of CGI. Like the Spider-Man himself is a full CGI character model frequently. It's I think if this movie came out today, I'd still be like, oh wow, this refreshingly looks pretty good.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
I still think it's a pretty good looking movie. And that does have to do with what is the cinematographer's name? Feister?
Wally Feister?
Man, I don't know if this is a banger, top-notch, incredible script. I think it's a good script. I don't know if it's incredible. It's a good-looking movie, and I think that does get you through a lot of the silly bits of like there's clearly a confidence behind the camera here that is just okay.
Absolutely.
We have some talent here that is taking that wants to do a good job with the material they have.
Yes.
And I think that's
I would say
great.
The script has a lot of David Goyer dialogue.
It's a David Goyer and Christopher Nolan script, story by David Goyer. And Goyer scripts don't fare as well when Christopher Nolan's not directing.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think he has less and less influence as these movies go on too.
I think it gets relegated. I imagine he still has story by credits, I think. So I imagine he was still helpful. I think he was the Batman guy.
That's what Nolan says. Yeah, he was like, he was so passionate about Batman, I needed someone.
Yeah. So I imagine he was helpful in story breaking. And clearly, like,
he was the one who was like,
capacity.
He was the one who told Nolan, no, you have to have a Batmobile. Yeah. Nolan's like, do we need a Batmobile? He's like, no, yeah, you have to have a Batmobile.
Which is correct. You do need a Batmobile.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of things of this script that I think are funny, where it's not an impressive script, I think, by any means. Aside from the note you had, Zach, on the intro there. But like it is like, hey, how does Batman get his cape? there's a scene here where he doesn't have a cape and he decides he needs a cape. How does he get the Batmobile? All right, we have a scene with the Batmobile. Like, just take all the Batman stuff and then we'll have a sequence and then we'll get to a third act and wrap it up. Like,
But it's a lot of fun stuff in there. It's a lot of fun.
It's so fun. I say that as a liker of this movie.
So here's a question that came up, and tell me if this is like common knowledge, but is this a 9/11 allegory? Do we think that's what's going on?
I don't know if it's a 9/11 allegory personally, as much as I think it's just definitely informed by a post 9/11 pop culture.
Sure. So it's like specifically like what they're doing is, or what Scarecrow's doing is weaponizing fear itself, which is everyone's thinking about terrorism and how to react to it. And I also remember at the time when they when they're like, okay, here's where the cape comes from. It's military technology. Here's where the car comes from. It's military technology. To me, it was like, oh yeah, okay, that checks out.
Right.
Because I was just starting to pay attention to the military.
I don't know it. I don't think they're sitting there going, because 9/11. But I think 9/11 is deep in all of our subconscious now, and that's coming through in all of pop culture. And very much. I think these are very post 9/11 movies.
Even when he does, I think in the later movies, kind of intentionally put some of that stuff in. I don't think he has anything specific he wants to say about it.
Correct.
I think it's just window dressing that adds to this realism.
I think this is the world we live in now. It's 2005. 9/11 was not long ago, which is funny to me looking back on it. We talk about 9/11 a lot on this show. That happens when you're talking about a 2000s TV show. But in 2005, 9/11 felt like that was years and years ago.
Yes, agreed.
Truly,
I had the same experience.
Like, that was so long ago.
I'm glad that's over with.
Right. And it's like, oh, that was like the other day.
2005 is when movies first started coming out about it.
Right.
Like United 93 and
right. You're right. But yeah, when I'm seeing Batman Begins, comparatively, in the grand scheme of things, 9/11 was yesterday, and then Batman Begins.
Totally. But you're right. It did not feel at all like that at the time. That's really crazy.
That's how time works, I guess.
You'll notice the Twin Towers are not in Gotham in this movie, and I think that's very poignant.
So my father just half watched this movie on the couch. He was mostly playing with his granddaughter, but like had the movie on, was engaged enough with it. And my father does not give a shit about Batman, has never respected the character.
I'm glad you went into full Brian mode for that sentence.
But it's funny, and like this is a sentiment that I think is common through pop culture, and it's funny that my father would just say it. And there's a shot of Gotham City, and my father just goes, "Yeah, Gotham City is just Chicago."
That's awesome.
And it's like not even in this one. Not even in this one.
Yeah, well, just wait, Dad.
This one has like a little bit of London shots.
Right. They do, whenever it's like a really wide shot, they do just make up their own geography and make like an amalgamation of.
Right. Okay, so the Waynes head out into the alley, and they are murdered by a mugger named Joe Chill. Joe Chill gets his due in this one. No more the Joker kills Batman's parents. Zach, you remember that as being like they changed it.
Right, yeah. Well, because I grew up with the Batman movies more than I did the comics.
Right.
And I didn't realize that Joker wasn't the one who killed his parents. I was like, oh, that's lame. It should be, why'd they change it? That doesn't make sense.
So funny.
But canonically, it's this guy Joe Chill.
It was
the one that originally.
Joe Chill is the name that the comics gave it. But what's funny to me is, and this is, I guess, as good a point as any, this is a reboot. But we weren't using of the Batman franchise. We weren't using that phrase yet.
This is the original reboot that in my memory.
This is, I think, where that term got popularized, and where I think studios were like, "Oh, we can do that. We can just do Spider-Man again." Like,
because
that's an option.
Because up until then, it was remake was the term,
right?
But that implies something that this movie isn't, which is
source
not
text.
Remaking.
Yeah,
right. We're not remaking Tim Burton's Batman.
Right.
This is just another version of this property. Right?
So that didn't, and I don't want to overstate this here, Zach. I've kind of expressed this before, and you were like, "No, you couldn't have thought that." I don't want to say that I thought this was a prequel to Batman 1989, because that's not quite accurate. But also in my brain, what else would it be? Does that make any sense?
When I was leaving the theater from seeing this movie, I overheard a gentleman who was like in his 40s asking some teenager he was seeing the movie with, it's like, that doesn't make sense. It's not going to, how does Jack Nicholson become the Joker? That,
right.
It doesn't add up.
Right.
And I remember being like, you're fucking stupid. No, I didn't say that, but
I don't know. It's some weird element where, like, no, it doesn't match up with Batman, but like, that's fine. It doesn't bother me. Like, the Batman movies don't match up.
Right,
within those 4 movies, they don't. This is another Batman movie, and it just takes place before the concept of Batman in those movies. I can't quite explain where my head was at. But kind of similarly, talking about my dad, I remember when these movies came out, and my dad had saw Batman Begins, liked it enough to see it with me, and then when the Dark Knight was coming around and all the press was coming around with that, and there was the Joker was going to be, it was like, they already did the Joker. They're just going to do the Joker again. Like, most people weren't thinking about it that much, and it kind of including me. I don't know. Jesse, did you have any thoughts on that at the time?
On like the Joker?
On the nature of the reboot. Do you remember anything around that time?
I think I don't remember. I don't think I had any specific thoughts about it. I just, like I said, I loved the goofy ones that I grew up with, and then hearing that this was going to be what we now deem a gritty reboot, like taking Batman more seriously. It's like, oh, okay, that could be fun. You know what I mean? So I wasn't deeply invested in any version of Batman. But I thought it was a little bit mind blowing that it was like, this is also great. Keep in mind, I still thought the old ones are great. This is also great in a different direction. Wow, cinema, the possibilities are endless.
The possibilities of cinema.
So
you have to understand, I was an idiot.
Oh, there's a lot of that going around in 2005. I just want to point out the movie trope. It's not just in this movie; it's in a lot of movies of people getting shot anywhere that's not the head and dying immediately.
Like
his parents both
except
get
for
shot
Thomas
in the
Wayne, who
stomach.
seems very calm.
Right. Not screaming in agony.
A slow, painful death as your organs shut down.
Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid.
It's so silly. And like, man, it's effective. I think it really, really works. So, although Joe Chill is arrested that same night, Bruce blames himself for inadvertently causing his parents' death. In this scene, we see Gary Oldman as Jim Gordon giving young Bruce Wayne his coat and telling him it's going to be okay. Here's another weird memory from this, and I asked my mom about it, and she's like, I don't fucking know. I don't know. But one of the times I saw this, I saw it with my mom, and she, during that scene, clocks and goes, "Oh, that's Commissioner Gordon."
Oh, wow.
How the fuck do you know that? I don't think now, my mom in her 60s, I could ask, who's Commissioner Gordon? I was like, I don't fucking know. I distinctly remember that. Like, how the fuck? Because he's not in those other movies. He's in them, but like, nah.
That was one of the things I was so stoked about this movie going in, was like knowing like, oh, it's actually Jim Gordon from Batman Year One. Like when they cast Gary Oldman, I was kind of like, huh? But then they released that first picture and he's got the mustache and he looks just like a fucking comic panel.
Right.
And I was like, yes, let's do this. Let's go. And he was, what counterintuitive casting, Gary Oldman as Jim Gordon. Especially at the time, because in the 90s, he played strictly villains, basically.
And also, he was fresh off of Tiptoes, where the movie where he played a little person and literally would walk around on his knees and stuff. That came out in 2003.
Oh, I've never even heard of that.
Have you? Okay. I've been thinking a lot about Tiptoes. I've never seen it. But
I haven't either.
I've never seen Tiptoes. I remember my mom renting Tiptoes. She had a big Matthew McConaughey crush. Gary Oldman is Matthew McConaughey's brother, who is a little person. And I forget who the love interest is, but Matthew McConaughey has to reveal to this love interest that his entire family are all little people. And it's apparently one of the worst movies ever made. So the story I recently watched Freeway. Kiefer Sutherland and a very early Reese Witherspoon role. It's a fucked up 90s, like Quentin Tarantino is very successful. I'm going to do that. It's Oliver Stone produced. And it's Little Red Riding Hood, but fucked up. The 90s. That is the director of Tiptoes. He has a couple of credits: Freeway, Freeway 2, and Tiptoes. Tiptoes, there is a 3-hour cut of Tiptoes. That is his cut of Tiptoes. What aired at Sundance is 89 minutes. He apparently gave the producers the fucking finger and walked out of the screening.
Wow.
And then he never worked again.
Exactly. That's what. So I looked up Tiptoes, and in the first line it says directed by Matthew Bright in what is his last film. Wow.
My wife and I did not like Freeway, but it's interesting and you should see it.
Like Gary Oldman, even when he wasn't playing a villain, he's never played like a normal dude. Which is like firmly what Jim Gordon is, like normal dude energy, right?
Right.
Like originally Nolan went to Kurt Russell and offered him the part.
Oh, interesting.
Which is good casting and makes total sense for what you would think of Jim Gordon as, right?
That would have been. I can't remove Gary Oldman from this part.
No,
in my brain, but like Kurt Russell would have been good.
Yes, it wasn't a big enough part, and so that's why he turned it down. I'm sure he was kicking himself for the next decade. But.
Yeah, right. Oh, that next one? Yeah. I think a lot of people regretted maybe not participating in that next one.
Yeah.
I don't know if Christian Bale had to work again after that next one.
No, none of them did. I do love this scene. It's a very sweet scene where Jim Gordon comes in and puts his coat around the kid and says it's okay. But then the fucking tone-deaf police commissioner comes in. Like, read the room, buddy. He comes in, he's like, good news! Good news! Your parents are still dead, but we caught the guy!
I think it does play a little bit. I very subtly. I maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just after seeing this movie 100 times, I'm just reading into it too much. I do think that plays on that boy's face. When after he says good news, I think there is like a. Do you have actual good news for me that my life hasn't just fundamentally been fucked up?
I do think it's intentional. Yeah, I do think it's definitely in the text of like, this guy's an idiot. Shut the fuck up. Jim Gordon is like the good guy, and this other cop comes in like an idiot. He's like, hey, we got him.
You're absolutely right.
Go wait out in the fucking hallway.
A lot of blood. You guys see that crime scene?
Crime now is pretty fucked up. We should put some guys out there.
Yeah, don't worry. The guy we caught's going to go away a long time because he shot the hell out of your parents.
Shot the hell out of them.
Shot them both. He's
never seen an exit wound quite like it.
You see, it enters and then it explodes out the back. So, several years later, Bruce returns to Gotham City from Princeton University, a university intent on killing Chill, whose prison sentence is being suspended in exchange for testifying against the crime boss Carmine Falcone. We don't really have a chance here in the summary to mention Michael Caine as Alfred, which is another one of those just like, we got a real actor here. Look, there's real actors in this movie. It's we see a little bit of him at the funeral, and I do think they really drive home. They do it a little bit in the other four movies, but Alfred's Bruce Wayne's father.
Right.
That's the text, and it's weird. He's got to put on a tuxedo and call him sir.
Yeah. I was thinking like in that context of like, okay, yeah, this is obviously just a papa for him. Like thinking of how the series ends, like how Alfred sort of like raps, like that's a rap on Alfred sort of thing, right? Where they have that like glance in fucking Europe or whatever.
Right. And
it kind of, so knowing the beginning and the end, it kind of makes sense that, God, it's stressful that this is a kid who you basically see as your kid, but who's also your boss. And he's got, besides like seeing somebody care about putting themselves in danger all the time, there's also that thing of like, I am not getting paid enough for this shit. So like a
Zach,
real father
muted.
probably wouldn't be able to go like amicable no contact, but like a butler dad, absolutely. The ending of Alfred's arc makes so much sense now.
Absolutely.
I just was going to say it's definitely the most fatherly of the Alfreds.
Yes.
At least so far. Yeah, I think in general. Maybe Andy Serkis is pretty fatherly too, but
right, but it's still not the same. It's not as like really high up on the text as I think it is here. Okay, so Rachel is now a law student working at the district attorney's office. We've already talked about Katie Holmes. Katie Holmes, of course, popular, probably on the tail end of Dawson's Creek is over by 2005.
Yes, I think it had ended the previous year, I believe.
Got it. Big Joey crush. I wasn't a huge Dawson's Creek watcher, but still a big Joey crush.
I had a same. I had a huge Katie Holmes crush.
This is the second Batman love interest to be married to Tom Cruise so far.
I know. I was gonna say, who plays Catwoman in the Kravitz? Zoe Kravitz.
Zoe Kravitz.
She's next on the dock for Tom Cruise. Watch out.
Or like who's the actress that plays young Rachel in Batman Begins? She's probably the right age by now.
Do you think that plays in to Tom Cruise's things? Like, yeah. Have you smooched Batman?
Oh my God.
I want to smooch the girl who smooched Batman, because that means I'm Batman.
Yeah.
Or you could read it the other way, like because they date Batman, and then that's when the marriages usually end. Right after that, right shortly thereafter.
Good point. No man is good enough after Batman.
I mean, she wasn't in The Dark Knight.
She wasn't in The Dark Knight.
No more Batman for you.
You don't go near Batman. Okay, so Rachel was now
asked me to play Batman.
No, you beautiful tiny man.
Yeah, you could be Robin. Even now, he could play Robin. He could play 25-year-old Robin. God, he would have been a great Robin.
He would have
back
been
in like the 80s.
Great Robin.
He's like perfect casting for Robin.
Okay, so Bruce returns from Gotham City to Gotham City from Princeton University, intent on killing Chill, whose prison sentence is being suspended in exchange for testifying against crime boss Carmine Falcone. Rachel, now a law student working at the district attorney's office, is disgusted with his plan and tells him his father would be ashamed of him. Before we get to that, we do see the court case. We see Joe Chill gets killed in the hallway of the court. And we do see Bruce admit to Katie Holmes that, like, oh man, I'm only mad because I wanted to do it. And for all the flack Katie Holmes gets here, I think she does good work here. I think this is as good as you can do with what she's given. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was say she slapped him pretty good.
I think
that was jarring.
I think that scene's actually really good.
Right.
I think there's actually a reality there. I think it's a very it's the first slap, and the first slap wasn't good enough, so she gets him again. I think it's good.
It's good. And of note, Maggie Gyllenhaal, who's I think we would all agree is probably a better actress, doesn't fare any better really with this material than Katie Holmes does.
No, absolutely not.
It's just there's not anything there to grab onto.
Right. This job is mostly to be girl. Don't be Batman. Don't be Batman.
Don't do it.
And it's a great
Make Batman feel bad. Make Batman feel bad. Make Batman want to quit.
It's a great role when your job is just to be the scold. It's a real fulfilling role for all young actresses. Don't do the thing we paid for you to see.
Oh no, do you just want me to be like the sexy love interest? No, we want you to be a scold. We want you to make him feel bad.
We want you to tell him, don't do the thing they're all here for you.
There's no sexiness at all in this movie. Yeah, don't. No. You say, hey, don't be Batman. Don't do it.
That's not healthy, Bruce Wayne. It's not healthy to be Batman. This should be Bruce Wayne begins to go to therapy. And every 15-year-old's gonna love it.
So then they get to Carmine Falcone's, and Tom Wilkinson, great actor, comes off the bench and hits like 5 3-pointers in this scene.
Yes.
Oh, I disappeared for a second. Am I back?
Sorry, we're all back.
I did too. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, he's so good in this. He has like this little monologue where he's like, hey, rich boy, like go fucking learn how to be a poor person and then you can come back to me, right? And Bruce Wayne's like, fine, I will.
My dad is in there. He's right. He doesn't know. Just some A+ fucking commentary from Kurt Miller. I'll continue with Kurt Miller commentary throughout.
Oh yeah, please. I don't need director commentary. I want Kurt commentary.
I love these like bent like a dog.
Oh, dude. Absolute. That was like such good. This movie has some really good line reads. Like that one, I actually wrote that down. I guess I didn't even have any commentary on that. Just like it was so good the way he delivered that. Like a dog.
Like a dog.
I mean,
and he's just like, look around this bar. There's a judge sitting over there. We got off-duty cops. Like, no, if I shot you in the face right now, no one would give a fuck. It's a great little monologue. So good.
It really is. Yeah. And then speaking of nice line reads, like directly after this, when he gives the homeless guy his coat, dude, this pops in my brain about like 7 to 10 times a year where the guy's like, it's a nice coat.
Yeah. Like, that's a nice coat. Yeah.
Yeah. Like if it's a cold day and I'm putting on my best coat, I'm like, that's a nice coat.
That's a nice coat.
That dude absolutely nailed it.
It's such a good scene. And the fact they play it back later, it's real good.
I do want to real quick focus in on something I really like in this movie that none of the other Batmans have done up to this point, which is really make a point of Batman not liking guns. He takes the gun that he was going to use to assassinate the guy, Joe Chill, and he hurls it into the water. And I just think that's a great moment.
Great moment.
I know it's not canon for him not to like guns necessarily. There are plenty of comics where he has used guns, but I think it's cool. I think it's a good addition to the canon. I think it's what a great message to send to little kids that superheroes don't use guns. Like, great. Love it.
and that's the thing of like, that's also just throwing a guy who doesn't like guns a whole lot. It's nice. It's good. It's cool. Yeah. And then, especially for like a children's character, like,
right.
You can break their spines. Just don't shoot.
Yeah, we solve our problems with fists.
Yes, yeah.
Like a man. And it's I don't know exactly when that was like introduced into like the canon. Not here. This didn't invent it, but
no.
I do like it. I do really like it.
Yeah.
And it's generally considered canon enough now. I think Zack Snyder fought against it.
He did. And his response was, people don't know they're canon. That's literally what he said. And I was like, no one is saying it's not there. They're saying it's stupid.
Yeah.
Because someone else has done this stupid thing doesn't mean it's a good idea.
Right.
And then one could argue the more rules you give Batman, the more interesting, more dramatically narrative places there are to go to challenge those rules, aka the entire next movie.
Yeah, the whole movie, the thematics of that movie are, hey, you made up these rules that are really inconvenient for you.
And kind of stupid, and you can't do all of them. He's like, watch me.
Yeah, and then 2.5 hours later, he's like, fuck, you're right. Okay. Okay. So, before he can act, however, one of Falcone's assassins kills Chill. Bruce confronts Falcone, who laughs at him and has his thugs rough him up to teach him a lesson. Bruce decides to travel the world for nearly 7 years to understand the criminal mind. There's a bit here where we see Bruce studying the criminal mind. He says the first time he stole so that he wouldn't starve, a lot of his perceptions changed on kind of this stuff. And then, but I never became one of them. And it's a good shot. It communicates what you want. That like, no, he didn't just like have a 7-year Rumspringa doing crime. They cut to like, hey, you're a criminal. He's like, I'm not a criminal. I'm not. And they cut to like what he was stealing, what his operation was going to was all Wayne Enterprises stuff. I was like, that's still that's not anything. You have no legal ground here. Like the Walden family can't just fucking steal shit off of fucking Walmart trucks.
That's the point. Plus, not to mention that he was declared legally dead, so like that stuff didn't belong to him. There is no Bruce Wayne anymore. Right.
Stand on whatever moral high ground you want, but like, I'm not a criminal. Yeah, but you are though.
I'm not a criminal. The criminals are scum, and I'm not scum. But I've learned a little something about them. Like this is just crime tourism, or poverty tourism.
I've learned how to punch them better. So ironically, he is eventually detained for theft of Wayne Enterprises equipment, leading to his detainment and Ducard finding him. In the present, Bruce accepted Raz's offer to join the League and begins ninja training under Ducard. There's a bit here. Oh my God, there's outdoor shots. There are outdoor shots and like a mountain and Christian Bale up against a giant landscape and movies, guys. There is some
great model work too of that.
Great.
The fortress up on the hill is a model, but it looks fantastic.
There is a apparently Pfizer wanted a kind of elaborate crane shot through the village, and having to do that handheld shot was a compromise because the crane shot was too elaborate. He couldn't get it. So that handheld shot is a compromise, and it's really good. I really like it. Like, as far as I'm concerned, that's a happy accident. I wouldn't change it.
Yeah.
I'm sure whatever he had planned would have been beautiful, but like, man, I love that shot.
Yeah. Movie looks good.
Looks good. When he passes his final exam, Roz states that he plans to have Bruce lead his men to destroy Gotham, believing its corrupt state to be beyond saving. There's a bit here where in Bruce's final test, they give him what will eventually be used as the Scarecrow's fear toxin. My father goes, oh, so he's on drugs?
Kurt. Let him have it, Kurt.
I had to at one point I was talking about being stoned in front of my father who went, excuse me? And like I had to like, I'm 35. It's legal in the state I live. It's legal in the state you live. You're just gonna have to grow up here a little bit.
The only high I need is a good long day of honest work.
Oh, Dad,
no
are you
high
here?
Like it.
Okay, so as a final test, Bruce is asked to execute a criminal. Bruce refuses and instead sets the temple on fire and probably kills a whole bunch of ninjas.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of them.
Oh my God, yeah.
He doesn't want to be an executioner, Brian.
Right. He doesn't have to save all the ninjas.
No.
Yeah.
So Roz is killed in the ensuing fight, and Bruce rescues an unconscious Ducard from the wreckage and leaves him at a nearby village.
By the way, Roz, all I could think when he's talking is, "Come on, man, don't do the voice. Don't talk like that, man.
Don't talk like that.
You don't have to do this, man."
Then we get a shot. Sorry.
When he saves Ducard on the edge of the cliff, this is to me the most unbelievable part of the movie. He does this like fly press with like, he's holding Liam Neeson, famously not a small dude. This is like, he's got armor on. This is like 250 pounds. Christian Bale's back is pinned up against the edge of a mountain, and he, with one hand, lifts Liam Neeson's entire body weight. As someone who works out and can lift maybe 1/85th of that, I can tell you that's incredibly hard to do, and I don't buy it for a second.
As someone who has never worked out once in their life, didn't bother me.
Strong man lift heavy thing.
I don't see the problem here, Zach.
This is Bruce Wayne we're talking about. Later in the movie, he will do 4 push-ups while he has a hangover. So this guy...
That is super heroic, but man, that is... Are we sure he is not from Krypton? It's not mentioned here in the summary, but we get the scene where Alfred picks Bruce up in the jet, and this is where I would love to talk about. This movie's frequently pretty funny. For all the like dark and gritty and serious, there's a lot of almost too like maybe too much in my 2024 viewing. Witty bit.
It's fun. It knows it's fun and silly. It knows it's silly.
This is still just a fun comic book movie.
I do want to say, notably in this conversation with Alfred, Nolan decides to skip over showing us the conversation where he's like, "Hey, I want to become a Batman," and Alfred's like, "What?"
I've been thinking about it.
I'm gonna put on
I'd like to be. We don't have one of these in this universe, but I'd like to have a mask and be a mysterious man of justice.
I want to come back and punch criminals at nighttime.
You don't know, Zorro. There's no Superman here. I'm gonna be a Batman.
we join the scene basically halfway through where Alfred's already kind of accepted that this is happening. He's just kind of asking like, so what, what's your plan? Kind of how are we going to do this? We skip over like, huh?
How much fatherly influence do you have when your son can also be like, also you're fired if you don't go along with my Batman plan? Do you like living at my house?
That's true.
There's a good exchange here of like, you had me declared dead.
And you can borrow the Rolls Royce if you want. Yeah.
Right. Just bring it back with a full tank. It's
I just want to note, I wrote down, this is 43 minutes into the movie. And up until now, it's been pretty much a montage. Like 43 minutes of montage.
Dude, absolutely. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think this is the first time Nolan did that. And this is now his trademark to the point where if you've seen Oppenheimer, the whole movie's a montage.
Oh,
essentially.
Shit, yeah.
Yes. Man,
like
that's a great point. Didn't even think of that.
Leaving this movie the first time I saw it, I liked it, but I didn't love it because I was not ready for the style, the Nolan style. I was just not used to it, not ready for it. And I love it now, but the montage, there's times where I'm just like, hey, can we just slow down and have a scene? Let's just linger for another minute here.
Nolan, to me, and I think this weak spot will show up more in other movies where I do feel like it can move. Okay, now I have to stop and real quick give you all the information you couldn't have possibly gathered.
Right? Yeah, for sure. I would like to stop, not for that, but for an emotional few things here or there. But honestly, I fucking love this movie now, and now that I know kind of how to watch his movies, I'm totally much more on board with the style. I mean, The Dark Knight Rises is almost 3 hours long, and it's jam packed with 18 hours worth of movie, and it's just so the only way to do it is montage, right? Montaging all the way through this fucking thing.
Okay, so finding Gotham ruled by Carmine Falcone, Bruce quickly plots against the city's corrupt system with the help of Rachel, now an assistant district attorney and police sergeant Jim Gordon, one of the few good cops left in Gotham.
I didn't as a kid or in high school, I didn't catch the sort of ACAB tones of the movie, but it was very clear in this rewatching. Everybody but Gordon is such a piece of shit. It's to a comic degree.
There are no cops worth trusting in Gotham City, which is funny. That's the whole point. I think this trilogy has at least on Twitter, a certain association for being kind of conservative leaning, which is interesting. I don't have enough of a window into what people are saying about it, into what they're saying. Just kind of a Batman movie to me, but
I had never heard that.
I've heard a lot, especially in regards to the Dark Knight.
Yeah, I wanted to comment on that too. It is often accused of being kind of a fascist. These three movies, kind of Batman's a little bit of a and I actually think this is one of the least fascist Batmans, and actually the movies are kind of about him grappling with that a little bit to a certain degree. How much do I get to decide who lives and who dies? And the cops are bad, but there's also some good cops, and it's order versus chaos. It's how much, I don't know, that stuff is in there thematically.
If the character of Batman questions arise, and it's interesting to explore them.
Right? Yes, exactly.
Dramatically.
It's no one fucking calls Spider-Man a fascist.
Right.
You know, at least Batman's kind of asking some questions.
So using resources from Wayne Enterprises, Bruce acquires prototype armor and a prototype armored car and an experimental armored suit and takes up the identity of Batman. Over the course of this, we of course meet Morgan Freeman's Lucius Fox, who's a character from the comics. He's appeared a couple times in the animated series. He's effectively in this Batman's Q. It's a fun addition. I like it. He's in all three movies, and it's good.
Insane. It's pretty amazing that they got Morgan Freeman circa 2005 to play this small of a role.
Yes.
I mean, money talks.
Money talks.
For sure. And it's a great decision because if anyone else played him, I don't think it. I mean, it's probably an extension of the movie as montage thing where you need characters to be memorable faces when they pop up.
Wow.
Great point.
And great performers just to come in and hit those notes real quick before we move on to the next thing.
And thinking about it, 2005 Morgan Freeman, yes, it's impressive they have him for this. It was probably a lot of money for not a ton of work.
Right, yeah.
Morgan Freeman don't got to stunt in this.
You get to come in and be funny and clever and charming and then leave.
Yeah, right. He probably a couple weeks on this maybe for a lot of money. This was worth it. But I remember that being like a weird legitimizer, which is exactly what they paid for. Of like, Mom, Morgan Freeman's in it. You love Morgan Freeman.
Yeah.
Who's he playing? Two-Face? Nope. The Riddler?
Lucius Fox.
Nope. Who?
Just Brian's mom in 2005 dropping everything and be like, oh, that's Lucius Fox.
So I would love to talk about the bat suit in this movie. I love it. I think it's Zach, you and I talked about this a little bit. I think it's of the three Nolan movies, I think it's aesthetically the most pleasing. I think it's maybe my favorite bat suit of the bunch.
It's the best one in a still photograph.
Yes. It is so awkward and it's so bulky.
It's big and lunky. Dumb. It's huge.
It's a lot.
I remember. Well, I was just speaking of you're right. In a still photograph looks great, but like that one big line that he delivers that reveals to her that he's that he's Bruce Wayne, and then he like leaps off the building. It didn't look graceful. I mean, it looked like a guy jumping onto a mattress, you know.
And he just got it like.
Yep. It's like he might as well he definitely farted a little bit too. Yeah.
So there's a lot of conversation. Zach, you and I had a lot of conversation around the action in this movie not being very good, which admittedly is not a Nolan strong point, especially at this point in his timeline.
Right. Specifically, I would say the fighting, the hand-to-hand combat stuff is awful. The car chase, still a little clunky, but it fares much better than... We're shooting everything in extreme close-up for some reason, which is not good for action.
No.
I definitely noticed that.
I didn't notice it at all when I was 15 because I was so wrapped up in the drama of it. But now that I know a little more about how a movie works, I'm like, oh, this is extremely bad.
That was my main complaint coming out of it in 2005 was like
we've talked about it. You were much earlier than me, very much more like zoned in on this stuff.
I will say this is the year after The Bourne Supremacy, which introduced the shaky cam fighting style that was all the rage for the next decade. And at the time, I did not really like it very much. I'm a little more generous to it now, but I think
we should do the Bourne movies at some point on this.
Oh, I fucking love the Bourne movies. But yeah, I remember being like, oh, it's the fucking Bourne thing. But it's not shaky as much as it is just extreme close-ups and a lot of cutting.
Right. It's so there's no momentum to the action scenes because, or at least the close hand-to-hand stuff. And part of me wonders how much of that is because of the big dumb suit.
I had never thought about it until you said that. Yeah. And also he hasn't done action until up to this point.
Right.
I do think he was trying to go for like a ninja. So it's like in some of these scenes, like you can't see what's going on, but that is no fun to watch. And
right.
diminishing returns.
It is funny. I'm just thinking about this now. It's funny how The Matrix in '99 revolutionized like action in like, what if like we had a fucking 360 camera around and you see this guy dodge a bullet and we go super slow-mo, and then very quickly it's sort of, what if you can't see shit?
Yeah.
And one out.
I do want to say Nolan gets better as he goes with action in these movies, to the point where the third one, where he fights Bane, it's all wide shots. All very wide shots and very few cuts. You just see them punching each other, and it's
But the
like
suit is a
opposite
lot
of these
more
early ones.
in little pieces and he can move in it a little better.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely.
Okay. So in his first night, he disrupts a drug shipment and leaves Falcone tied to a searchlight, forming a makeshift bat signal. This I remember being a very exciting scene in being able to see Batman being like stealthy and like showing up and like scaring criminals first. And I specifically remember Falcone being like tied up and that making the bat signal, and me, I just remember being 15. I'm like, this is serious and gritty.
Yeah. Yeah. That's where it comes from. Incredible.
It's a person.
I am everything. I make fun of fucking dweebs so much on this show, specifically because I know exactly.
You know where all the weak points are.
It's like, this is for grown-ups.
This scene with Batman picking these guys off one at a time, I think it's supposed to be kind of scary. That's the intent. Like the characters are supposed to be afraid of Batman, but it's not scary at all. I've said that before. This Batman isn't scary at all. Michael Keaton has some moments where he's scary. The new Robert Pattinson, he has some moments where, he's scary. You can, you feel like, oh shit, these poor gangsters are about to get their asses fucking kicked.
Right.
Nolan, it's funny. He recently said that he would love to do a horror movie one day. And like, you're going to have to slow the fuck down, bud.
Right.
If you do a horror movie, you're going to have to slow that pace down because there's nothing scary about a montage. Never been a scary montage before.
Right. Do you think that's a great point? Do you think the intention there was to be scary to the audience? Because like I reckon there's a little more of a power fantasy element there.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yep.
Where you're supposed to be Batman and you have the criminal's corner.
Yes. You are supposed to be reveling in the gangsters or whatever getting picked off one by one.
Who are the most generic, just bad guys.
I thought kind of it's more of like a slasher thing where it's scary and you're also like, this guy's going to get it. I can't wait for this guy to get
better.
it. Right, yeah.
But I do think there's an 11-year-old just like, I'm Batman and I'm smarter than all these guys and I got him.
Watching your bully piss his pants. The last guy is like, oh, you better come out.
Right. I'm
going to shoot this machine gun at all these crates.
What
a great idea.
So funny that whispered.
I love it. I don't give a shit.
I do. Before we skipped over the scene where he gets the tumbler from.
It's mentioned. It's mentioned very briefly. Yeah.
I always wondered, how does he get the tumbler from Wayne Tower to Wayne Manor,
and then spray painted black at some point?
When does that happen? No one notices.
No one. It's like, hey, we had to bring.
He's doing it in the middle of the night, driving past those like neon gangs from the previous iteration. Just like, shh, be cool.
I remember in the Batmobile having just like, yeah, that's a fucking Batmobile. Fuck Tim Burton. That's a Batmobile. Because I sucked.
I love this Batmobile. I think
too.
the Burton one is the best one, but
Yes.
I do love this one, and I love it's more model work a lot of the times. It's a little car made to look like a big car.
That's the thing of like, no, I do love Batman got big army car and it's just painted black, but I also just love Batman just got cool car.
Right. Well, I think they realize the impracticality of having that be his car because it's destroyed in the next movie.
Much. Yeah, right.
Yeah, and then it's just the little motorcycle that he rides around.
But I think to your point, Nolan never really wanted it. No, it gets abandoned pretty quickly in this series. So he also disrupts an assassination attempt on Rachel, leaving her with evidence against a judge on Falcone's payroll. This is he has a little bit of dialogue as Batman here. He doesn't have as much later. It's, Zach, you described it as his Batman voice hasn't quite gone to outer space yet.
No, yeah. Well, there's like, when he talks, it's just kind of an Alec Baldwin voice. You know, Falcone sent them to kill you, like that. And then when he's like frantic later, like trying to save Rachel, that's when he gets the growly, crazy voice. And then I think when he did Dark Knight, he forgot that was just for one scene. And he just made that his entire voice.
Yes, I think you're right.
Do you guys remember? Do you guys remember the Pete Holmes sketches? I think there's, or maybe it's just one.
No, there was a
specific one. Is
there was a bunch of
yeah.
them.
There's like Batman chooses his voice. He's like the guy. Like, did we get to that scene yet where the guy is?
I think we've passed it. Yeah.
Okay.
He's so perfect.
First of all, he's so good, but such a good line where like he's like the dude, like the bad guy's having it out with the falafel cart guy, and in the Pete Holmes version, he's like, "What's the matter? Kids don't like falafel?" And then the guy's like, "Thank you, that actually solves a lot of my problems."
It's anytime I mention that, you know, I worked for College Humor, those are what people bring up of like, "Oh, I loved those Batman sketches." It's like, that was before me, and I think we just bought those. That wasn't like our writing team or anything.
Right. But dude, I never even caught that. You're right. He doesn't talk in that stereotypical Batman voice the whole time. It's just when he's under duress. Yeah. See, when Batmen make that noise, that actually means that they're stressed. It's not cute.
I saw a TikTok of a larger public conversation with Robert Pattinson talking about his Batman voice and how it's like, I love what Christian Bale did. I have long dialogue scenes. And dude, Robert Pattinson has the longest dialogue scenes anyone has in the fucking Batman costume.
Yeah.
I had to figure something else fucking out. So.
Also, no one wants to hear that voice for that long. Yeah.
I'm gonna do the whole rest of the show like that.
It was definitely like a meme, a joke of like, it never bothered me, but it's pretty silly. Less so here than it gets later. But
I think The Dark Knight is the pinnacle because after that there was so much blowback. He tapers it a little bit for Rises.
Right.
Like, okay.
But it's good. It's good to address at least that, like, my God, it's the same chin as Bruce Wayne. It's the same voice as Bruce Wayne. Like, it's good that they spend some time pretending like he did something different.
That is a great point because it does look like Christian Bale's weird little mouth just shoved through.
It really does.
It's like, I see your weird little fucking mouth, buddy.
Hey, Bruce, it's so weird. You were gone for 8 years, and then you came back, and then Batman shows up for the first time.
I don't know.
Bruce, you're doing the Batman voice as Bruce Wayne.
Your weird little chin.
I gotta say, it's never bothered me. of like, you don't know it's Bruce Wayne? Everyone would know it's Bruce Wayne.
Oh, no.
I don't know,
yeah.
man. It's never
No.
bothered me.
It's not the Superman problem.
Right.
Like, it's not like
right.
that. This is a little different.
That's true.
It is like if Tom Cruise was Bruce Wayne, or if Tom Cruise was Batman, we'd be like, well, like, how do they not know it's Tom Cruise? Because that would be stupid.
Right. It's the exact same thing, because no one would be like, hey, I think he's Batman. But if we found out Tom Cruise was Batman, no one would be like, what?
Yeah.
We'd all be like,
Right.
we would all say, oh, fuck, yeah. Yeah. Makes sense that Bruce Wayne is Batman.
Right.
Speaking of weird voices, not so much the main cast, because they acquit themselves nicely, but the sort of day player walk-on parts in this movie were filthy with terrible American accents, fake American accents.
Yes.
Because it's shot in England, right?
Correct.
Yes. So it's
Frequently, yes.
It's just like everyone who has one or two lines is a really bad fake American accent, and it just grates on me.
Oh man, I want to rewatch it just to see if I catch that. I've never noticed that. Oi, Mr. Batman.
Like Bale's got one of the less obnoxious fake American accents. It kind of works here because he's supposed to be kind of a weirdo. So, when he talks like this, it's not so distracting. My anger
I was
guilt.
homeschooled.
Yeah, I talk really slow because Americans are dumb.
Okay, so we disrupt a drug shipment. We disrupt an assassination attempt on Rachel. While investigating the drugs in the shipment, Batman encounters Dr. Jonathan Crane, an Arkham Asylum psychiatrist on Falcone's payroll. Crane sprays Batman with a powerful hallucinogen. Bruce's butler, Alfred Pennyworth, Alfred's first mention in this summary, rescues him using an antitoxin developed by Lucius Fox, Bruce's ally at Wayne Enterprises, to save him.
It's notable how little Nolan is interested in villains compared with the movies that came before.
Yes,
which were
this is very
villain-centric.
much Batman's movie.
Yes, and we're just like, hey, Scarecrow's here. It's fine. And it works. It works great.
Yeah.
But he doesn't give a fuck about origin stories for villains. I mean, Joker doesn't have one. Scarecrow doesn't have one. Ra's al Ghul, he's like, my wife died. That's it.
This is the first time where it's like Batman's going to be the main character of this Batman movie, if that's cool with everybody.
Yep.
I'm trying to think. There's nothing. I remember being moved by Michael Caine driving and like fighting back tears as Batman's tripping out in the back.
Still talking in the Bat voice, by the way. It's just him and Alfred.
Gotta say, I had a really bad mushrooms trip within the last year, and my wife mostly just found me annoying. She was not fighting back tears.
Oh no.
He was more crying about he's dressed as a bat. Like in the back of his car. I should have stopped way too far.
I knew this wasn't good.
That's so good.
In prison, Falcone meets with Crane and demands a bigger share of the profits for smuggling the hallucinogen into Gotham. I think there's a sentiment here that I think is fair, that Falcone is like, hey, we're smuggling this stuff in. And Crane is like, that's what the money's for. We pay you for that.
Oh, yeah.
In exchange for money, which you can use for goods and services. Hey, maybe that's not as good to me as favors. Crane responds by dosing Falcone in with the toxin with a gas mask resembling a scarecrow, rendering him completely insane. Rachel arrives at Arkham to question Crane about Falcone's mental state. Crane shows her that the toxin, which is lethal in vapor form, is being piped into the city's water supply before spraying her with the gas. I gotta say here, so they're putting the toxins into the water supply. So are there people just making fucking mac and cheese, breathing in steam, and just going, ah!
I didn't think about that. The noodles. The wiki skipped over the first scene where Gordon meets a Batman officially in the costume. And what I love about this scene is he's taking out the trash and he just kind of looks over and there's a giant man bat crouched on his porch. He does not look phased or surprised at all. He just kind of leans back and closes the door so his family
Jim Gordon's
hear.
a fucking badass, Zach.
I would like to register a little surprise at seeing the giant.
Yeah, he just looks into the camera and goes, well, that's Chicago for you.
I remember it being, what's the word? Insufferable. And seeing, Gordon has a young daughter in that scene. I'm like, that's Batgirl! That's Batgirl! That little girl's playing Batgirl! She doesn't even know! Because I sucked as like a human being.
Your mom, of course, already knew that.
Yes,
she clocked it as soon as she saw it.
My mom clocked it right away. So Rachel's been hit with the gas. Batman arrives to rescue her, only to find that the police have swarmed Arkham to arrest Crane. He escapes with Rachel in the Batmobile, and after administering the antidote to her in the Batcave, gives her 2 vials of it to pass on to Gordon. One for inoculating himself, and the other for mass production. The Arkham scene, there's a fun bit here where he blows up a wall. There's 2 inmates in there, and he goes, "Excuse me." And I don't know if he needed that, but that's kind of what we were doing at the time. that would not be in the Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I think there was an element here of, this like kind of chaos in Arkham Asylum is maybe an opening for a bunch of but I don't think they explored that. And probably rightfully so. As much as I like Arkham being a thing in the Joel Schumacher movies of just a large building where all the villains are stored.
Yeah.
Arkham doesn't show up again. Zach, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it's in Dark Knight or Dark Knight Rises at all.
No, they allude to the Joker being in a padded cell, which I assume would be at Arkham, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Wait, I thought there was something in Rises where they kind of have a whole carousel of bad guys,
Blackgate Prison.
Got it. Okay.
Is in Dark Knight.
What
Rises.
is that? And why not Arkham?
Because they're not. They're not mentally insane. They're just.
I got you.
Evil. You know.
That's a good point.
I wonder if it's just because they're if we do it at Arkham, then we have to reference Joker in some way.
Sure.
And we don't want to do that.
Which, you know what, would be ghoulish in Dark Knight Rises.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
Just if anyone is hearing this 10 years in the future, maybe Heath Ledger, of course, passed away in between the 2 films, or before even Dark Knight came out.
If someone else directed The Dark Knight Rises, and if it came out this year, they would do a fucking CGI Heath Ledger or some shit.
You are not wrong.
Thank God. Thank God cooler heads prevailed.
Serious.
Instead, they just had somebody conspicuously read off a newspaper article that said the Batmobile lost a wheel and Joker got away. And that's...
Actually, he just died. After that scene in Dark Knight, he just cut him loose. And then he fell.
My home planet needs me.
So later...
I mean, there's definitely an argument that the Joker died of lethal injection 2 years later. after that shit
in
that
our
he
more
did.
realistic society here, it's like, okay, all right, Batman, we'll take him away. Get fucking rid of this guy.
He lived long enough for the appeals to go through and run their course.
Either that or realistically in a crystal, he's in fucking Guantanamo.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, he's not in Gotham proper.
Yeah.
He's not.
Yeah, yeah. Isn't El Chapo in Manhattan? Is he still there? That's kind of weird, right?
That's weird. So later at Wayne Manor, Bruce is confronted at his birthday celebration by a group of League of Shadows ninja led by Ducard, who reveals himself to be the real Ra's al Ghul. The man killed earlier was his front man. I will say here, this is Bruce's 30th birthday. I don't feel great about that at 35.
Dude, I saw that. Oh, illegal.
Just these characters are not allowed to be younger than me.
Yeah, if you have to be 35 to be president, you have to be 35 to be Batman, I think.
Just period.
This little scene where he gets to be drunk Bruce Wayne, this is a good time to talk about his Bruce Wayne portrayal, I think.
Yes,
because
definitely.
His take on the character, in my view, is basically, and I think someone else has said this, it's not something I came up with, is he stopped aging when the night his parents died. So he's like he's a man-child, and the Bruce Wayne, he's that's who he is really. And then when he is Bruce Wayne in the public, he puts on this show to divert attention away from himself, right? Which I don't think has any other real superhero characters do that, except for Clark Kent does it as, or Superman does it as Clark Kent. He plays a geeky guy. Iron Man kind of is that guy legitimately.
Right.
But it was such a fun take at the time, a refreshing one to be like, oh, he's just pretending to be. And that's from Batman Year One. He does that in there too when Gordon comes to visit him.
That's cool.
Yes, 1,000,000%. And I think you're exactly right. It was refreshing of like billionaire playboy Bruce Wayne is as much an act as Batman is.
Yeah. He's really just an intense man-child.
Right.
Who knows how to kick people.
Who is Bruce Wayne? Bruce Wayne at this point doesn't even fucking know. He's
right. Yeah.
Thankfully, there will be a line of dialogue where Katie Holmes literally throws her fingers over Christian Bale's face and go, "This is your mask."
Which I don't think is when she's like, "The man I loved never came back." The man you loved? You mean the kid, the child,
the boy,
the boy,
Yeah, the boy down at the boy at the bottom of the well. Yeah, I love that. I love that guy.
Yeah, no, he never came back up from the well. Come into my well. He's there. I keep the boy there.
When he first rediscovers the Batcave with Alfred as an adult, and the bats like sort of swarm him, and he just kind of stands there and faces his fear. Like, I know you're facing your fear, but you might want to schedule a doctor's appointment.
Yeah, right.
With all those bats.
This was not a
very tiny teeth.
This was not a this time Kurt line. I'm watching this on DVD, and my father is just standing in the living room, arms crossed, watching Batman Begins over my shoulder. He'd be covered in bat shit.
The amount of disease that is on his clothes at that point. Oof.
You should not be afraid of the physical form of the bat.
Right, yeah.
But the, in fact, very real diseases they carry. There's a scene earlier where he's, of course, inspired to maybe turn it into Batman by a bat that's gotten into the manor. That's quite literally from the original comic book, the original issue. And I shall take the shape of a bat, he thought as he sat in his chair and saw a bat in his mansion.
So this scene, after he scares away all his birthday party guests, oh no, right before that, when the lady's like, "Oh, wanting to meet someone, Mr. Ra's al Ghul," then that lady just fucks off.
just fucks right off. Oh,
She
got
fucks
someone imagine if I'm like, Zach, I have someone you just have to meet. Am I pronouncing this right? Jesse Eisemann? And then I just got off the Zoom call.
But because I was like watching her face, she still has one eye in frame when Bruce says, Ra's al Ghul, I watched him die. And she doesn't like do a double take or anything.
No,
She's like, good conversation.
If anything, she's like, I gotta go.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not what I was expecting. Gotta go.
She's like, oh, you guys know each other. I just want
I just love to make introductions.
After the reveal of Liam Neeson and they're having that intense conversation, I just want to pan like a foot over and she's still right there, like just smiling. Like, what are you guys talking about?
Roz, who has been conspiring with Crane the entire time, plans to destroy Gotham by distributing the toxin via the city's water supply and vaporizing it with a microwave emitter stolen from Wayne Enterprises. That's what the docks scene was all about. So Bruce dismisses his guests by insulting them while pretending to be drunk and fights briefly with Roz while the League lights the manor on fire and traps Bruce under a beam. At the last minute, Alfred rescues Bruce from the fire and they head to the Batcave. We see a little bit of we get a nod to it before, but we see a piano like ding ding ding, and that opens up a bookcase that lets them into the Batcave. That's like a 60s series nod that will never come back again. No more of that after this. So they head to the Batcave. Batman arrives at. We get a bit here. The elevator takes it down hard, and Bruce is kind of at his like third act or like his second act, like low point, and he's like, "You still haven't given up on me, Alfred." Never.
Oh, dude, yeah, his never is so crisp,
and it's so good. It's so good. But I remember doing that with my friends in high school. Just like never. Batman arrives at a Gotham slum called the Narrows to aid the police in battling the psychotic criminals that the League has set free from the asylum. There's a bit where Commissioner Loeb is like, there's no one left to send in, and the Batmobile fucking rages over, and it's like, yes, Batman!
And then Batman comes in and does the exposition to Gary Oldman. There's nothing to stop Gotham tearing itself apart through mass panic.
Thank you for establishing the stakes.
There's so much exposition, and I'm doing this dumb voice. So, can you drive stick?
Can you drive stick? I've seen the inside of the Batmobile. That's not stick, buddy. It's not the same.
Usually, Alfred drives me around, so I'm not.
Yeah. It's not who I am underneath. What I do that defines me. Rachel delivers the antidote to Gordon and rescues a small boy from the crowd. That boy is a boy we see in the Narrows before, who sees Batman and is...
Oh, you got it.
Just, you want to say? No, you go. No, take it.
This is that one fact that I had. That's old Joffrey Baratheon.
That's him. There he
Jack
is.
Gleason, yeah. You recognize
real
that
piece
little...
of shit.
Real piece of shit. Just an absolute little piece of shit child.
People like you that made Jack Gleason quit acting.
Yeah, he was like, I don't want to do this anymore, and he's just in law school now.
Yeah. But I love that.
He was fantastic. That means he's a good actor.
It's so good. I was such a singular talent at being the littlest piece of shit.
Yeah. It was also like a very, that what first made me perk up was that they just had this cop just like fully smush him in the face. Like that's one of those moments that made me be like, oh, this is like very ACAB, much more than I recognized.
I think the cop was a lunatic.
Oh, I thought you
Am
just
I
a little,
wrong?
little shit bird.
I thought he's one of Ra's al Ghul's guys. He's from
That's
Naked
what I
Shadows
thought.
guy.
Right. No, that was a bad guy. That was not a cop.
Yeah.
I'm an idiot then.
Yeah, this movie's not that ACAP, Jesse. You can't give it all that
Fuck.
all that credit.
Oh, well, that's
Right. That was
funny then.
a bad guy goon who was like, "Get out of here, kid," which Batman would never do. So there's a bit, you'll never see another moment like this in the rest of the trilogy, but I do like it of just earlier in the movie when this kid sees Batman, it's like, the other kids will never believe me, and Christian Bale throws him a fucking $1,000 piece of technology.
Probably could be traced back to him. It's just like Wayne Enterprises on it.
Oh my god. Do you want my autograph on that?
But you know what? I wouldn't change it. It's a good moment. So Rachel delivers the antidote to Gordon and rescues a small boy from the crowd. She's confronted by Crane, who is now calling himself Scarecrow, riding a stolen police horse. She tasers him, sending him riding off aimlessly into the crowds. Batman stops Ra's from carrying the microwave emitter to the city's central water hub at Wayne Tower by having the...
We're just skipping over so much. So first of all, we get one of my favorite moments of the movie is, it's silly, but when he says that line back to her, you know, what I do that defines me.
It's so good.
It's good because of her he says that and then jumps off, and the reaction, she does a really great, she does a great reaction of like, oh, that is someone I know dressed like an insane bat person. Like, oh no. Oh
we get the moment we didn't see Alfred do it. What?
Yeah. In my recollection, her reaction was like more like passionate and loving, like, oh, what a hero. But then watching it today, I was like, she's like, what the fuck?
She's like, oh no.
I almost like fucked you at some point.
I know I've been telling you to take more of an active role in society's like getting us back on
like
track,
use your money.
That's your superpower. I don't know if you've caught on to this yet, but
so then we
stop trying to pose as like a rich billionaire playboy buying hotels when I'm coming in, and use that to like fund homeless shelters.
When is Infrastructure Week gonna happen in Gotham?
So then
the government can't take care of it. I have to punch it away.
We get the train headed towards the center of Gotham with the microwave emitter on it. And in case we don't understand the stakes, we keep cutting back to the exposition bunker, wherever this is, where these two guys, as we're headed right towards the main hub. Like obnoxious people.
So I gotta say,
30
I'm
seconds.
not sure we would understand the stakes without the exposition hug.
If that thing gets here, then this whole thing is gonna blow.
I've seen this movie. We've had the benefit of seeing this movie many, many times. I don't know if it all reads without a bunch of concerned old men just going like, "We're in trouble if that train hits here."
Every 30 seconds, a new guy walks in the room and they have to re-explain it.
They say there's this Batman character on the news.
And while he's fighting Ra's al Ghul on the train, we get your favorite moral justification, Brian, of all these movies. I won't kill you, but I don't have to save you.
Yep.
That was solid too.
Can't. Yeah.
I mean, if you were Batman, you would have to do a bunch of moral jujitsu to convince yourself that you were doing good. Right?
Doing anything good.
I don't kill people. I don't save them sometimes when I destroy the train they're on and they're fly to their deaths.
But like, But technically, my dad bought that train, so like, no harm, no foul.
Yeah. That's another thing. Obviously, we'll talk about it there. It's another thing I really like about the Matt Reeves, the Batman. I'm just like, are you doing any good?
Yeah, exactly.
Is this anything, buddy? Like the Nolan Batman clearly is doing a good job. Like that is the stance of the movies. The Matt Reeves Batman, what is this?
Yes, the guy who was pretending to be Ra's al Ghul died in a fire that I started. But I didn't kill him. The fire killed him.
Just like the bullet I shot that other guy. I'm wondering how that legal precedent could hold up. Of like, I didn't kill him.
Yeah.
Just.
I mean,
was I responsible for?
He's that would change like the degree of the crime, probably. Like involuntary or something. I don't know the right legal terminology, but if it was inadvertently murdered him, I meant to start the fire. Didn't mean for him to get burned alive.
Right. Or for him to fall off the train, or for the train to like, look, I didn't have to save him.
Yeah, what's that? Like Bruce Wayne representing himself in court. Like, what's that thing where like CPR? You can get sued for doing CPR on people. That's what I was afraid of.
Yeah, right. Good Samaritan.
Yeah.
So he explicitly declines to save Roz from the resulting crash. Not a great third act, I gotta say. It's very Superman the movie to me. Of like, okay, we set this up. We have the sequence. We have another sequence. We have another. Okay, now Batman's all set up, so we have to have a little adventure for him, and it's a little 20-minute adventure for Batman to have. Is what it feels like. I'm not even mad at it. I just don't think it's great. I do think it's the peril of this origin story superhero movie trope. I think this is the formula of that style of movie, because like Iron Man in 2008 was like, everyone loved Iron Man, but everyone agreed like the third act kind of sucked. And I do think that's you came to see the like, I'm Batman now, and then you got to see him be Batman, and it's fine. It's a little 20-minute adventure.
All those movies, Spider-Man, the original Spider-Man, they're all the most interesting for the first 2/3, and then
right, and then we have to. All right, now let's bring this thing home.
Well, because it's all about them becoming the character, and then once they do, there's not enough time for like a full-on real story adventure on its own.
It's not that different from like Top Gun or fucking Days of Thunder, or like, where like you want to be the best and then it ends with like a competition to be the best. And like, except maybe that archetype works better there, but it's the same principal archetype, right?
Right.
Okay, so following the battle, Batman becomes a public hero in Gotham, and Bruce gains control of Wayne Enterprises. Rutger Hauer has been totally minced over in this summary.
Yeah. Hot off his season 3 turn in Smallville.
Yes. I'm sure I've mentioned it in his appearances in Smallville, but I distinctly remember watching this movie with a friend, and my friend just going, "Who's this Rutger Hauer looking motherfucker?" It's Rutger Hauer, man. Oh,
perfectly cast.
Rutger Hauer is arguably the most Rutger Hauer looking motherfucker. I'm calling this episode Rutger Hauer looking motherfucker. So Batman's a public hero, gains control of Wayne Enterprises. There's a bit earlier in the movie where Morgan Freeman gets fired, and Rutger Hauer is like, "Didn't you get the memo?" And Morgan Freeman gets to throw it back at him, and it's good.
It's very good.
Newly promoted Lieutenant Gordon unveils a bat bat signal for Batman and mentions a new criminal who leaves Joker playing cards at crime scenes, and Batman promises to investigate it. Gordon says he has not thanked Batman for his help. Batman replies that he'll never have to, and he disappears into the night.
Hey, yep.
Done. Just to the Hans Zimmer score. We miss a bit here in the wiki of the Bruce in the rubble of Wayne Manor that has been destroyed in the fire. Fire really took out a brick fucking building. It's a good scene though of hey, Bruce was very cavalier towards his family's legacy, and very like I believe at one point said I would take it all down brick by brick, and Michael Caine in his very Michael Caine wisdom is like, hey man, show some fucking respect. To then Bruce Wayne saying like, I'm gonna rebuild it brick for brick, to which Michael Caine responds with like, what about Batcave, though?
Yeah.
And
Dude,
it's real good. It's real so good.
People always complain about those kind of Easter eggs now, but when they are done well, they work gangbusters.
It just works. No complaints. Is it silly? Yes, of course it's a Batman movie. It's very silly.
On the Batman Forever episode, we made fun of geeks who we theorized probably shot their wads when he mentioned Metropolis. I do want to say when he flips over the Joker card, I actually shot my wad. So
it's
straight up in the theater. Because Batman Year One ends with a similar moment. And when him and Gordon first meet, I'm like, are they going to do it? They're doing it. Are they going to do it? Come on, do it. And then that thing turns over and
my mom, this past weekend, watching this movie, who has seen this movie before, has seen The Dark Knight, just doesn't think about it that much. She goes, the Joker, as the card is flipping over. I'm like, good job, Mom. You got it. I've seen this movie before, but okay, you got it.
Oh,
Yeah.
That just proves it's like the perfect reveal. I guess the Joker is well known enough that a casual viewer will know that that's a character, but it was really just so fucking. I remember, like I didn't quite shoot my wad, but I remember being psyched, being like, "Oh my god, there's gonna be more to this story."
Yeah,
because we wouldn't have known yet. Was Heath Ledger even cast at that point?
No,
nope. Did we know? Yeah, okay.
Nope.
So that was like a true reveal.
The second one was not guaranteed at this point.
No, not at all.
That's fucking
cool.
In
fact, Batman Begins, it was a hit, but it was not a huge hit. Not when compared to
huge.
The Spider-Man.
It gained word of mouth kind of later.
It was one of those on DVD movies that was huge on DVD. So by the time Dark Knight, it was like everyone was like, "Yeah, give me another one of these."
I will say, like, I don't know. I was surprised, and I think everybody was, by how successful Dark Knight was.
Yes,
like Batman Begins was like my movie that I was way too into, and then it turned out everyone was kind of into this now. So what I'm saying is, I was into Batman first.
You did mention Hans Zimmer, and I do think we should talk a little about him, because we skipped over whatever this fucking name is, who did the Batman Forever, Batman and Robin soundtracks.
God, I don't remember his name.
Because
they are good soundtracks. They're under.
He doesn't do the Elfman. He does his own thing, and it's pretty darn good. Not as good as Elfman, but still good. And then I remember when this came out, they were like, are they going to use the Elfman? What are they going to do? And he does something totally different.
Right.
It's good. Good.
This is as much a Batman theme to me as anything else.
It's so good. It's so good. And it's so different. I love it. Dun, dun, dun.
Which is a great segue into the tie-in song corner.
Yes.
Of course, most of the Batman movies thus far have had a tie-in song.
Oh, yeah.
This tie-in song corner, this is our first time we're turning, and oh man, there's cobwebs in the tie-in song corner. but we do have a consolation prize.
I think this counts. I think it counts.
I think this counts. This is a consolation prize. This is the what's the word I'm looking for? The honorary tie-in song, and it is of course "Someday" by Nickelback.
You
Jesse,
just gotta play that commercial. You just gotta play it.
I got it ready. Jesse, you may not have seen this before. I'm setting up the share now. This was a TV spot for Batman Begins.
I never stopped thinking about you. And when I heard you were back, I started to hope.
I could sense that things would never be the same again.
Just hold on.
Stay with me.
Batman Begins. Rated PG-13. In theaters and IMAX Wednesday, June 15.
Do you think Nolan retched when he saw that?
Anything to sell this fucking movie.
Yeah.
So
Podcastle.ai is the all-in-one online
a commercial made for the WB to be played on Smallville.
Because I showed it to my wife because I'm like, you gotta see this, and she's like, I think Katie Holmes is in that more than she's in the movie. Which I think they just want to hit an audience of like, look, go with your boyfriend to this.
Yeah. And like, so first of all, I could picture seeing that in theaters too. It felt like a theatrical thing that they would put before, like, I want to look up what kind of rom-coms came out in 2004 that like for like boyfriends that were dragged to the theater to watch whatever being like, oh, this is like kind of hardcore. Like, I don't know. It just like, it really seemed to split this difference that like the movie itself certainly does not.
No. I do wonder how much of that is like trying to tap into a Spider-Man audience, because Kristen Dunst in the Spider-Man movies was
for
like
sure.
notable.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And like Katie Holmes is like that. Huh? This is a movie for boys.
Well, like Spider-Man has her, and it's like very heavily romance based. The X-Men has a bunch of women in it who are part of the team, right. And Batman's until Catwoman shows up, you got slim pickings.
Well, you got Martha.
Yeah, and Commissioner Gordon's daughter.
Yeah, there's a lot of women all over this. So the movie would come out. We kind of already talked about it. Expectations weren't that high. It would like slow boil over into a very, very successful sequel that we'll talk more about next time.
Elliot Goldenthal is the name of the composer of the Batman Forever score.
There you go. Zach, any final thoughts on Batman Begins?
Oh, no, I think I said them all, man. I liked it a lot when I saw it, but it wasn't until I saw it the second time, third time that I was like, oh, this is fucking really good. And I do think this is 4.5-star movie. This is a great movie. If in my opinion, it's just so much fun, just a great entertainment. Obviously the next one's better.
I think I think my final thoughts are like I think it's the weakest of the three. It's been a little while since I've revisited them. I think this is more of like a 3.5 for me, but like a very good, very fun 3.5.
Interesting.
It brings me back to summer 2005 where I was working in a movie theater and no girls wanted to talk to me, but it's okay. I had Batman Begins. Jesse, final thoughts.
Oh man, if we're doing stars, I'm gonna say a solid 4. And definitely at the time, 4.5 or plus. I did the only note that I meant to mention is, okay, when Batman turns the gas on the Scarecrow and drives the Scarecrow into insanity mode, I wrote, I should have never smoked that shit. Now I'm seeing blackface Batman.
I lied. That's going to be the episode title. It's not.
But that was jarring as shit. They really like captured like anxiety and like the feeling of insanity and like, yeah, that was some crazy shit.
Hell yeah.
And
Jesse, where can we find you?
Coming out of his mouth, too.
Everything turns into worms and black blood. Yeah.
There was goop in this movie. And there was no USA Today junior movie critic on a daytime talk show talking about goop coming out of mouths. Jesse, you can go back to our Batman Returns episode. Jesse, where can we find you on the internet?
Yeah, check me out on Twitter at Eisemann, Eisemann. And also check out Crack's YouTube channel. You can check out some Cannonball. Check out Honest Dads. Check out Honest History, a series that we've been dabbling in recently. That's about it.
Hell yeah. Jesse, we have one final question. We're springing this on you. It's, do you, to close out the show, have a question for Batman? Spoiler alert, the answer will be, I'm Batman.
He might answer differently. That's
he might. You're right. You never know.
Saying, yeah.
Are you a virgin?
Good night, everybody.